tomorrow is actually a very important moment in this investigation. For the first time, we're going to hear directly from survivors in a hearing format where they'll be able to tell their stories. They'll be able to answer questions from the committee. We're also going to be hearing from some folks here on the ground that were very involved in Palm Beach and the way this investigation at the local and state level really unraveled. I mean, at the center of this, of course, is former Secretary Alex Acosta. Just the horrible, horrible job that was done by his then department and him as U.S. attorney in actually prosecuting and trying to bring justice for the survivors and to really go after other co-conspirators. And so those stories will be told tomorrow. We think it's going to be an important moment for this committee and the work that we're doing around the Epstein investigation. And so I expect tomorrow for there to be a lot of information both revealed, but also important questions being asked.
Congressman, I want to dive a little bit further into the Acosta part of this because in one sense, it's set in motion a lot of things, and then in another sense, it sort of put a bar against some others. You have Associated Press reporting back in February about the FBI concluding Jeffrey Epstein wasn't running a sex trafficking ring for powerful men. Noting the Epstein investigation began in 2005 when the parents of a 14-year-old girl was reported she had been molested at the millionaire's home in Palm Beach. Police would identify at least 35 girls with similar stories. After the FBI joined the probe, however, federal prosecutors drafted indictments to charge Epstein. But instead, then Miami U.S. Attorney Alexander Acosta struck a deal letting Epstein plead guilty to state charges of soliciting prostitution from an underage girl. It feels to me that what Acosta did was to preempt further federal investigation based off of what they were initial finding. How do you see exploring that and exposing more of Acosta's role here that kind of set in motion sort of the cover-up feel aspect of some of this relative to federal prosecution?
Look, I think we have obviously interviewed Alex Acosta. We've heard him answer questions. I personally and others believe he has not been fully truthful to the committee. He is in large part responsible for the continuation of enormous terror and abuse of women and girls. The fact that we did not go after Epstein and bring justice to those survivors and other co-conspirators in large part is because of Acosta and the sweetheart deal he put together, and to not go beyond essentially what was a slap on the wrist to Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell. And so you're going to be hearing a lot about Alex Acosta tomorrow. And in addition, let's be clear, we are in Palm Beach. Palm Beach is also at the center of where this work happened, where the investigation and the line prosecutors were going to Acosta and asking for more prosecutions. This is the same location where at Mar-a-Lago, we know that there was essentially women and girls being recruited to then go work for Jeffrey Epstein in his homes. So all of this, and then to get appointed to Labor Secretary by Donald Trump, another resident, by the way, of the very city that we're in right now, Mar-a-Lago, which is not too far from where we are. I think tomorrow is going to be an important reminder to the American people that this investigation is just getting started and that Palm Beach is at the center of the work ahead.
It is just striking, as I read the intro, to note that in 2005, the parents of a 14-year-old girl came forward, and years later, more than 1,200 girls were trafficked, abused, sexually assaulted by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And to think if someone would have taken this family seriously in 2005, many people would have been saved. I want to ask you, Congressman, if we can take a turn about Pam Bondi and her testimony. She is supposed to testify about Epstein on May 29th before a House panel. This hearing that you are having right now was actually scheduled for April 14th, but it was moved because that's when Bondi was first ordered to appear. Are you confident that you're going to see Pam Bondi on the 29th? And will she be under oath and recorded? Unlike Secretary Lutnick, who was not. I mean, there is a transcript, but it was not on video.
Right. Look, I mean, whether she shows up or not, I mean, we're going to wait and see. She should show up. There's a legal subpoena for her to attend. And I think it's really a shame that Chairman Comer, who has, as the leader, the chair of the majority, he has the ability to decide if these depositions and interviews are recorded or not and then released to the American public. It's his decision alone. And the fact that he chose to not do so for Lutnick, I think, is a real shame to this investigation and really overall just goes to this continuous cover-up that is happening. Now, look, when the transcript of Lutnick gets revealed, I think it's going to be very interesting for the American public to hear Lutnick essentially lie and weave and try to deflect the entire time. Now, as that relates to Bondi, there is no question that we have demanded James Comer to ensure that it's videotaped, it's under oath, and it's made available to the American public. Up until this very moment, Chairman Comer has not agreed to do so yet.
Representative Garcia, do you plan to call Lutnick back in?
We have additional questions for Secretary Lutnick, so that those conversations are ongoing.
Okay, they're ongoing, and it is kind of, sort of a lead to what Simone just said about Pam Bondi, whether or not she shows up on the 29th of the month. For me, Congressman, I don't get too worked up about it at this point, and the reason is come January, the gavel will be in your hand. And I think that's something that a lot of folks are not really counting on or thinking about in terms of how this plays out if I'm Pam Bondi or Mr. Lutnick, that somehow they're going to be lucky enough to have Donald Trump steal enough votes this November for Republicans to keep the House. But I wouldn't make that bet. So what's your advice to them about the opportunities they're being afforded now versus the reality that they could come to live with this time next year?
Look, my message first to those that are in the administration right now, certainly cabinet secretaries, those in leadership, they better be preserving their papers and get ready to testify in front of the Oversight Committee, whether they have testified already or not. We want to ensure that these testimonies are done in a way that is transparent and open to the American public, and we continue to have more questions. And as it relates to the men and women of the FBI, of the Department of Justice, of the Commerce Department, of other agencies that I know have information, that we know that most are good civil servants that want to do right by survivors and justice, we continue to encourage and to contact us, whether it's through our whistleblower program or know that we are going to ensure that when we're in the majority, we are going to be asking those questions. We are going to be asking for documents. We are going to be going into every agency until we get the truth about Jeffrey Epstein, about who also committed these horrific crimes, and who has been involved in the largest cover-up in modern history around at any level of government. That's what this investigation is about. And so we're relentless, which is why we're here in Palm Beach, and we will be everywhere until we ensure that we get justice for the survivors.